Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to engage you. When I say story, I'm coming, you say, story, come. Story, I'm coming.
Story, come.
Story, I'm coming.
Story, come.
I was born smack in the middle of the 20th century, during the reign of King George VI. Hence, my colonial name, George. Nicknamed Njoroge. At my birth, my father was a local missionary, as he fondly referred to himself. One of the very first dilemmas I faced, hence the title of my story, The Dilemma of an Intellectual, was the linguistic dilemma. You see, being born in Karura, a multiracial campus, my first language, ironically, was English. Between my dad and my mom, they spoke English, Gikuyu, and the Luo. If ever there is a gene I inherited from my parents, is that of multilingualism. I grew up an enthusiastic kid, growing anywhere they went and everywhere they were invited to. Those years passed without notice. Schooling was just a joy to me. After all, my father was a teacher, trained teacher. Schooling in Bugema added joy to me because it culminated with my setting a record on the campus for all levels. The prior year, I just earned a prestigious award for English essay writing. Those years slipped by fast, and I found myself at the university campus of Nairobi. After it grew out of the Royal College, those were the 1970s. So in the years 70s and 80s, when I was at the University of Nairobi as student and professor, the dilemma I faced lay squarely because of my being a staunch Adventist. I could not go to classes on Sabbath, nor could I teach on Saturday as a matter of conscience. In the 1980s, the biggest challenge and dilemma we faced was the government giving directives which to us as professors did not make sense or logic, because they were handed down and government expected us to carry out the directives without question or participation. I went to grad school. When I finished grad school, I got married to my wife Elizabeth, born during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, who has not abdicated yet. Soon after, I found myself chair of the dilemmas continued to dog me. One particular one was whether I should continue teaching in public universities or I should move to a parochial one. As a matter of fact, I was pressured to making a decision to join the University of Eastern Africa, Baraton, while my wife was presenting a paper in Florence, Italy, on one of the very first international conferences on HIV/AIDS. Soon after, in 1991, we joined Baraton. At Baraton, I started off as registrar, and within 1 year, hardly a year, as a matter of fact, I was deputy vice chancellor. I was determined, along with the other faculty, to make Baraton one of the strongest universities on the continent. After all, we were the very first private-owned university to be chartered by the government of Kenya. And every university was coming to us to find out how we were doing things. And they were directed to my office as one leading the academics to learn from us how we did it. Unfortunately, some influential Kenyans thought that instead of recruiting students and faculty globally, we should go local. They called it Kenyanization. I was strongly opposed to that. Matter of fact, that coupled with the ethnic clashes, the sabotaging and vandalism that went on around us, to the extent that they threatened to shoot crude arrows to take our lives and burn my family in one of the faculty homes, was one of those things that triggered my being transferred to Kamagambo. As a matter of fact, even my mentors turned against me. And in 1996, I found myself principal of Kamagambo. The downward trend and spiral had started. In Kamagambo, I was startled. See, Kamagambo was built before World War I. And here they wanted me to turn a teacher's college and a high school that was performing miserably into a university offering institution. It quickly dawned on me that the church fathers really wanted me to take that challenge when they pretty well knew that they were going to pull the rug from under my feet and let the project collapse. I soldiered on because I was determined first to carry out a transformation of Kamagambo so I could raise the standards, which, fortunately, we did. Kamagambo High School started appearing in the papers as a good performer among the top 100. Presently, I started the university program, and I was determined to change Kamagambo into Kamangambo. To the extent that we had students up to the third year of programs in university education. At that point, the church fathers, true to what I suspected, pulled the plug from under. However, the 150 were able to place in different colleges, including Baraton, which was opposed to us. Agambo. Presently, too, I was transferred, unbeknown to me, to Nairobi, to the East African Union, to be Associate Director of Youth, Chaplaincy, and Children Ministries, reporting to one of my students from Baraton. What used to be my hobbies now became a major. As pathfinder, director, and preaching. When I looked at this, I said, Lord, enough is enough. So somehow, through my own initiatives and providentially, an opening arose at Andrews University College of Technology, where they offered me associate professor of engineering and the director of the graduate engineering program. While I was going through my own miseries and misfortunes, my wife and kids were caught in this net. Matter of fact, in 1990, my wife Elizabeth had started Owen House to take care of the needs of the HIV and AIDS clients, which was doing so well. But my joining Baraton forced her to close down Owen House, reluctantly. A wonderful wife. She joined me at Baraton and accepted this lesser head of the clinic on campus. The stories you should hear of the good she did there are amazing. And that softened the dilemmas that I went through. My kids, on the other hand, were living in misery because they had to switch from the Kenyan system of education to the so-called overseas education on Baraton campus and on to Maxwell. And soon after, because of this location and translocation of their father, completely without their input, they found themselves in Barren Springs, Michigan, where to this day it has been awkward somewhat that they neither belong to Kenya fully, by birth, yes, nor do they fully belong here. A dilemma caused and forced onto them because of the misfortunes that befell me. Many times, my wife and I ask ourselves questions. Where exactly did we go wrong? Must kids be subjected to the problems that we have faced, where they have to make a choice between performing and conforming, achieving and laissez-faire attitudes? There are consequences with all the choices we have made as parents. And some we may never ever compensate our kids for. They will have to take them graciously, and by God's grace, they too will learn how to face the challenges. To those questions and answers to how you tackle those dilemmas, plus many other dilemmas I omitted advisedly, will be the topic of my next episode.